Welcome back to the channel. I had a question in overnight which I felt was sufficiently serious to make another video about, to give you my views on this. Now of course this is my views and guidance and not legal advice. However, it's so serious that I think you should take my views on it with the seriousness that it warrants. So the question set out to me was as follows, obviously completely anonymized. We recently bought a product online, obviously cutting out the product and the name of the website for anonymity. The product was then out for delivery and failed to be delivered twice, something we can all relate to. We followed it up with the retailer and their complaints procedure and asked them to chase up the delivery. Their response was that the courier lost it and issued a full refund. In the meantime, we purchased the exact same product from a rival company. The next day, however, the original product arrived, despite the retailer having said it had been lost. The very next day, the new product arrived from the rival company. So obviously they now had two of the same product. And then follows the question, can I keep the original product when we get the refund legally, or do I have to contact them? So this is when it gets quite serious, because if you've been refunded for the product, but then the product arrives, the product doesn't belong to you because you haven't paid for the product. It still belongs to the retailer. And there's very settled law on this, even in the event that you had to claim against the company to get the money back, and then the product arrives, you cannot then keep the product. That's known as double recovery, and no court is going to allow double recovery. So in this situation, the retailer will still own the product because you've had your money back, and essentially the contract has been brought to an end and rescinded. In other words, taken back to the position where you were before you entered the contract. The danger you have with keeping the product is that it might amount to theft. Now, there are 5 elements to theft: the dishonest appropriation of property belonging to another with the intention to permanently deprive them of it. Now, the appropriation here is fairly simple, even though you've been delivered it in a normal way, but if you've had your money back, then the appropriation comes because the retailer will still own the goods. Section 3 of the 1968 Theft Act provides that any assumption of the rights of the owner amounts to appropriation. And this includes any property that comes to you which was originally in an honest format. So you've just ordered the product and it's being delivered to you, and that insofar as the delivery was honest. But then if you receive the refund, it can become dishonest. And then if you continue to treat it as the owner, that then becomes a dishonest appropriation because you know that you haven't paid for the item. There is a legal technical difficulty in this, however, in that a defendant would need to form the dishonest intention at the time when the property belonged to another. So one analysis is that if the refund has already been given to you, the product does not belong to you, and arguably it never did, because the product would be at the risk of the retailer until it is delivered to you, and only when it's delivered to you it becomes your property, but that's only on the assumption that you've paid for it. So if you've received the refund but then you received the product didn't belong to you, and therefore if you treat it as the owner when you are not the owner, then that in my view is dishonest appropriation of the product, which meets that particular requirement for the elements of theft. So aside from all the legal arguments and technicalities, in my view the right thing of course is just to contact them and arrange for them to have it sent back. In many cases it's quite likely they'll just tell you to keep it, but in other cases they will obviously arrange for its return. I suppose it depends on the value of the item and the shop's attitude to customer service. So as with most things like this, I would always say err on the side of caution, but I hope you found that a useful overview. So please give the video a thumbs up, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.